We have a wonderful presentation today on Celebrate Recovery coming up. And golly, I'll let the team introduce themselves because now I've forgotten all of the names. Because we got Troy and Jenny and Virginia and Chris. Virginia and Chris are going to take us through a very meaningful presentation. So without further ado, take it away.
All right.
And I gotta get this little thing off it.
Oh, you know what it is? Okay.
There. And as you go through,
Oh,
because I didn't
okay.
tell you, who's going to run the presentation? You're going to? Okay, Troy. Okay, I took you through. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I just sent Lynn a text that there's a little black box up there. I just want to let her know it's fixed.
It's fixed.
Jenny, it wouldn't be CR if we didn't have technical issues. Come on.
Yeah, so that's a nice little intro to CR. So Celebrate Recovery. I'm just curious, how many of you are aware that we have a Celebrate Recovery ministry at Westminster? Okay, some of you and not all of you. So I'm glad that we're doing this. So, and maybe those that are aware don't know as much about it either. So we are in the season of Eastertide, which we are leaning into the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ and the power of his lordship over death. And I think Celebrate Recovery is a ministry of resurrection. It's a ministry of transformation, of healing, of hope, of new beginnings, new life. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We have 4 of our Celebrate Recovery, and the Celebrate Recovery, and sometimes we'll say CR. So if we say CR, that's the short version of Celebrate Recovery. So we have 4 of our leaders of our Celebrate Recovery ministry here at Westminster with us today. We have Virginia Yeager, we have Chris McCool and Troy Zukowski.
Thank you.
And we have on Zoom Gail Tanzola Seymour. And Chris and Gail and Tony Archinsoni, who was a pastor at Westminster before I arrived and I filled his empty spot. But they began this ministry at Westminster 15 years ago. So it's been a ministry that's been going on for 15 years here at Westminster. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to steal their thunder of what they're going to share with you. But it's a quiet ministry. You might not know it exists. It's a confidential ministry. It happens every Thursday night in the building. Before COVID, we'd every Thursday night in the Heckert Center. COVID's brought its own wrinkles, and I'll let them talk about that. But it never stopped. It was a ministry that was going on even with COVID dropping, and we're so grateful for those that made that possible. So I'm going to turn it over and let you share with them, because this is a ministry we want to get the word out. You might not need it yourself, but do you know somebody who needs it? Or maybe you do need it, but we want to get the word out that this is available and that people know how to access it. So I'm going to turn it over. I don't know which of you wants to begin.
You're going to get all of us. How about that?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to introduce ourselves the way that we introduce ourselves at our meetings. So I'm Chris. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with control, people pleasing, and overcommitting.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And hi, I'm Virginia. I'm a very grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with anxiety, depression, people pleasing, and some codependency with my children.
Hi, Virginia.
Hi.
And good morning. My name is Troy. I'm a grateful believer and ever-growing disciple of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I have struggled for much of my life with depression, anxiety, perfectionism. And with the amazing help of the Celebrate Recovery Ministry, I am 12 years sober now from a 3.5 decades long pornography addiction.
Hi, Troy.
Hi, Troy.
Just one thing I'll note here, if you notice when we introduced ourselves and we relate ourselves as being, God is our power. I'm Chris, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. We don't identify ourselves with our struggles because we in Celebrate Recovery know that God is going to help us with the things that we're struggling with. And that's what you'll learn a little bit more about today.
And one of the things that we wanted to really stress this morning with you all is, even though the ministry is called Celebrate Recovery, so many of us think that recovery is synonymous with, an addiction or compulsive behavior, especially related to alcohol or drugs or other drugs or self-medication of choice. But, one of the things we want to stress today, and Chris actually in a conversation recently said, we sort of wish that the originators of Celebrate Recovery, I think it goes back to 1991 is when the ministry started out in Saddleback Church in California. And we wish that the name of the ministry might not have been Celebrate Recovery, but Celebrate
Freedom or something like that.
Yeah,
so just
freedom from your struggles. And so this ministry is not just about addictive and compulsive behavior. It's about anyone who has a hurt in their life, a habit that they're not necessarily thrilled with, that they wish they could tackle and maybe defeat, and a hang up. How many of us have hang-ups in our lives that may go back to our childhood or difficult family interactions throughout the years? So, if we think about it, a hurt, hang-up, or a habit, that's human. That's us as humans. We all have those. Jesus had those. Jenny, thank you for the beautiful reminder of Happy Resurrection, on Sunday, commemorating Jesus. But we also celebrated not just the resurrection, but Jesus's humanity. He experienced hurts, habits, and hangups. He prayed to, his heavenly and our heavenly Father for help and guidance with his hurts, habits, and hangups. And man, did he face the ultimate hurt, habit, and hangup, certainly with his mission here in his human earthly walk. And so, again, we wanted to stress to everyone that this ministry is really for everyone. It's not just a recovery ministry. We do have folks, myself included. I did struggle for 3.5 decades. Since I was age 11, I became addicted to pornography. And I really didn't realize how destructive it had been in my life until, well into my adult years. And so I definitely struggled with that, horrendous habit of self-medicating myself when I was stressed or I was dealing with, great depression or anxiety. My self-medicative, habit, was turning to pornography. But it doesn't just have to be that horrendous, compulsive, addictive something. Chris mentioned struggling with control,
people pleasing. If you look at our group, actually, the majority of our folks are more focused on kind of the hurts and the habits, as opposed to alcoholism and various different addictions that you think of when you think of normal recovery. We like to say, if you have a belly button, you need to be in CR. So, that's kind of what we like to say, but anyway.
Yeah, we'd like to just give, a little bit of an overview, and we're going to, today's presentation is going to be kind of multifaceted. We're going to have a PowerPoint to kind of guide our presentation, but we're also going to interject a couple of video clips just to give you a different taste of some things related to CR. We'll provide some anecdotes of our experiences within Celebrate Recovery. And also, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have a question, a comment, please just halt us and we'll make this as an interactive hour as we possibly can.
And Gail, if you want to say anything too, just unmute.
Just so you know, CR is worldwide. It's not just here in the United States, it's worldwide. It is reaching so many people, not only as regular CR, but there's a CR for in the ministry, in the prisons, CR on the inside. They've focused so much on various things, health, mental health, obviously, has been a big area that they continue to grow. So we'll go ahead and get started here.
The other thing I wanted to add was it's a very confidential ministry. So whatever you share in the group stays in the group, because people are having a lot of deep sharing. And I think it's important to know that that sharing isn't going to leave the walls of the church.
Yeah. And we'll go into that when we let you know what a meeting actually looks like on a Thursday night here.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Virginia. Okay, we're just going to share a little clip. This is actually the presenter in this maybe 3-minute clip is the current pastor of the entire Celebrate Recovery ministry, servicing thousands of churches worldwide. And I think it's up to 7, 8, 9 million people are involved in Celebrate Recovery ministries throughout the world. And this gentleman, Johnny Baker Jr., is actually the son of the founding member. His father, John, back in 1991, founded Celebrate Recovery. So his son is the current pastor of the entire ministry.
We often talk about Celebrate Recovery being for anybody who struggles with a hurt, hang up, or habit. So whether you're somebody who was hurt as a child and you're still dealing with those issues, or you've got people pleasing hang-ups and things that keep you stuck in relationships, or you're addicted to something, food, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, that Celebrate Recovery is really for anybody. In fact, that's the truth. Celebrate Recovery is for all of us because we've all been hurt and we've all hurt other people. We've all got things in our lives that keep us stuck and keep us frozen, things we wish we didn't deal with. And for many of us, we have these addiction issues that also just rob us of any joy or peace that we have in our life. But there's another group of people that we call dual diagnosis. And this is somebody who struggles with an issue in Celebrate Recovery, but they also have a mental health issue. And this is somebody who's got depression, and this depression leads them to self-medicate, or somebody who's got suicidal thoughts and they also self-medicate, or whatever that issue is. And so with Celebrate Recovery, really, it's part of a process that can help anybody, but there's some times where we need a little more. Maybe we need to be going to a church counselor or a professional counselor who can prescribe us medicine. Maybe we need to be in a support group where we work through something that's going on in our lives while we work through Celebrate Recovery. The thing about Celebrate Recovery is that it's a biblical program, and it's got 8 principles that lead us from one place to the next place over one day at a time after one day at a time. So we begin where we realize that we're not God. We come out of denial. We face our fears. We face the problems that have keeping us stuck. We turn our lives over to Jesus. We do things like taking a moral inventory of our lives, and we look at all the things that we've done have been done to us to help us come out of that. We talk to other people about what's happening. Then at the end, we serve other people because we believe that God uses our pain so that we can help other people when they go through pain. And so what we really want to do is just tell you about this ministry, this place where you can come and you can find healing no matter what's going on in your life. We have some people that have gone through Celebrate Recovery for years that have dealt with issues like anxiety. And they wake up every morning in a cold sweat and they just look at their day and they think, how am I going to get through today? Well, by going to a counselor and by working the principles and steps of recovery, they're able to find day by day freedom over that issue. We have other people who are severely depressed and they also need to find a way out. There's people like me who struggle with anxiety and am a recovering alcoholic. And I know that when I'm hurting, I medicate. Now, I haven't medicated with alcohol for over a decade, but I can find anything, whether it's working out or whether it's, spending money or anything, just give it to me and I will overdo it. And so we find that we've got these issues, and what we need to do is we come clean about it. We talk to each other about it. We talk to God about it. We allow Him to work in our lives and to find the thing that's really causing us pain. The reality of it is that whatever we're doing tends to be a symptom. We think I need to come to recovery because I drink too much, or I'm online too much, or I spend too much money. And while that's true, we need to get out that sinful behavior. We need to root it out. The truth is that often the reason we're doing those things are buried deeper inside of us. And so that's what recovery allows us to do. It allows us to find that pain that's in our lives, that's keeping us frozen, keeping us stuck. And so that's all about Celebrate Recovery. We hope that you'll go to celebraterecovery.com and find a ministry near you, a church near you who does celebrate recovery, so that you can work through your issues, so that you can help other people who are struggling with something similar. We'll be praying for you.
Before we go to the next slide, I'll just mention Westminster is not the only CR in the Chester County area. The nice thing is that there's CRs that meet multiple times during the week. So there's two CRs that meet on Monday nights, one at Willowdale Chapel, one at Christ Community. Down at Hopewell in Downingtown meets on Tuesday. Obviously, we meet on Thursdays. And then Providence Church in Westchester meets on Sundays. So there's options for folks to go to multiple meetings, and not just in Chester County, but Delaware County, Philadelphia, Malvern, down in Delaware, all over. So there's a lot of opportunities to go. Some of our members want to go multiple times and to different CRs. So just mention that as we go through. Again, CR obviously, and you spoke about it in your opening prayer, which was beautiful. We are living in a broken world. We've gone through something that none of us ever thought we would go through in what we went through in COVID. And yet God was there with us as we continued to run this ministry and be able to talk through how people were feeling. This is a beautiful ministry that provides us a safe place to talk about what's going on in our lives in a safe community.
And also we meet on Zoom. So if people can't attend our meetings, which are the first and third Thursday of the month, they can attend on Zoom. So we still meet weekly, every Thursday evening.
We're kind of morphing into the in-person. So we kind of took our time, just like Westminster, we took our time coming back in person, but normally CRs are meeting in person. The thing about, as Virginia said, on Zoom has been a blessing actually to our state reps, because there are folks for some reason that maybe it's a medical condition or maybe they're just their comfort level. It's easier for them to get on the computer to come and have the healing of Celebrate Recovery, as opposed to parking their car and walking all the way down the hall in here. So we've been able to lead a lot of people to Celebrate Recovery. And I think the thing that has been so beautiful is that during all of this time, our CR thrived. I mean, we had wonderful attendance, and we're excited about that.
And we've maintained, with the ability of Zoom, we've maintained some members that are highly remote. We still have a gentleman who's in Kentucky who joins us weekly in our men's open share, and we had a beautiful couple that decided to retire to Rehoboth Beach, and they still join us. Whether it's for a large group or small group activities on Zoom. So it's just beautiful. And I just want to re-echo what Chris said. Ted's prayer was beautiful. It was beautiful because it touched on so many of the points in this little summary here that we have on the slide. As Chris talked about the broken world that we live in. Ted alluded to it in his prayer. Our country, our society in general, there's so much conflict, and we just hope and pray that we can, have some meaningful dialogue and discourse, and we just come together, and despite our differences and our challenge, that we can unify in many respects and compromise so that we can continue to move forward. And as we mentioned in this slide, we all deal with life's hurts, habits, and hangups, but very, very rarely do we don't have the capacity to do it on our own. As Johnny Baker mentioned, we might need some deeper intervention in our lives, whether that's through counseling or through some kind of medication. But we also need the beauty of community, because, one of the things that I struggled with for so long, with my own pornography addiction and my depression, was that the overwhelming feeling that I was alone in my struggle, that, this was so unique to me, that the shame and the guilt just ate at my very essence. And, in coming together with the Celebrate Recovery ministry, I learned that although I didn't necessarily, Chris and my self-medicating or a manifestation of some of our deeper issues, were exhibited in different ways. Some of our own themes were very similar, where our settings might be different, our circumstances might be different, but the themes of deep-rooted issues are very, very similar. And again, it's just manifested in a different way. So Celebrate Recovery is a beautiful community of believers and strugglers in our earthly walk. And we support one another through many, many different activities in the Celebrate Recovery ministry that we'll talk about as we move forward.
The other thing I want to mention that's an integral part of the program is we're not there to fix one another. So people don't just come get advice. We're there to support one another. And as Troy said, some of our members are also in counseling or taking medication. So this can be an adjunct to what they're doing, while other members may just be in Celebrate Recovery, and that's enough for them at this point in their journey.
Yeah, that's a great point, Virginia. The other piece to this is many of our folks that participate in Celebrate Recovery are participating because, certainly they may have their own issues, but we might have a member who is caring for a parent struggling with dementia. We may have a member who is struggling with their own depression, but might have an adult child who is struggling with
You name it.
you name the issue. And how much, as for those of us that are parents or grandparents, how much it eats away at us when our children or grandchildren or another spouse, another family member is struggling pervasively with their hurt, habit, and hang up. And it certainly manifests itself in our lives. So, Celebrate Recovery gives an outlet of support for people that might be dealing with family members or other circumstances that they're finding very, very difficult, and it's having a profound effect on their daily lives.
And we have other layers of support that are built into the program that we'll be talking about. You can have a sponsor so that you can have someone that you talk with frequently about your hurts, hangups, and habits. We have accountability partners. That's someone else, another layer of support that you can talk to someone. So it's not just attending the program Thursday night. We have these other avenues that you can gain more support with.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just to reiterate what we are, we're a safe place. We're a safe place for fellowship. We are a place that's confidential, excuse me if I can speak this morning. One thing you'll hear is we've understood that we're powerless. That's a big word for us. We're powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, that our lives have become unmanageable. That was me. Whirling like a top. I don't know. I've given my mini testimony a few times here at Westminster, but our lives are unmanageable and we need to find peace. And one of my favorite, verses, be still and know. That was for me. I needed to learn to be still and to trust and to put myself into God. What you'll hear, I think, as a theme here is that we've used our tests in life because of Celebrate Recovery as our testimonies, that piece of giving back. And to kind of, we love, part of our program has testimonies because it shows how God has worked in our lives. There's nothing more powerful than to give somebody hope when they see that this program can really work for them, that it has worked for other people who have committed to the program and who have put the energy and the time into the program. And another thing I'll just mention is, we've got a great group, and not only do we have our meetings and we have the sponsors and accountability partners, but I know the guys and the women, they both have text change that we put prayer requests in. We're only a little text away from saying, look, I'm hurting today, or, hey, I have this procedure. Can you please pray for me? So, and that's just something that's so powerful. We like to call it our CR Forever family, because once you're part of it, you're part of it for life. I think go to the next one.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
We are a very close-knit group, and it's brought me so much comfort.
I think the other thing is, the thing about CR, it's also an opportunity to take the masks off, right? We live in a society that we're supposed to act like we can multitask and keep it all together, and that our life is perfect, and you're wearing the right clothes, and it's come as you are. Come to the table, come as you are. It's one of our favorite songs, actually, in CR.
Yes.
But we take the mask off. We're real. Our sharing is very open and honest and real. We'll talk about something, we have guidelines, something is like crosstalk. A lot of people have always been told what to do and how to feel. And that's something that you won't see in CR. When someone shares, we don't comment on their sharing. That's considered crosstalk. It's not like we're not caring people, we are, but sometimes folks have been interrupted when they're crying or something like that, that they want to be able to feel your feelings to get them out, so that you can replace that hurt with something beautiful. And that would be, God's word and his love.
Yeah, and it's also, it's participate in whatever capacity you wish to participate in. Many folks that come to Celebrate Recovery for the first, time or the first few sessions, I'm thinking back to my time when I was in, kind of new to the ministry. I just, I was feeling great anxiety. Is this the right place for me? What am I doing here? And, kind of sitting in the back corner, not wanting anybody to really notice me or reach out. And, we were, members of Celebrate Recovery respect that, we try to just be a ministry that is a support to whatever you might need at this particular moment. If you need to sit back and kind of soak everything in and digest, all the terminology and the structure of the program, the different nuances, as Virginia said, there's that respect factor. And then to the point where, we want to, as folks kind of grow in their own recoveries, how do we also pay it forward? One of the things 11, 12 years ago, when I first stepped in the doors here at Westminster to CR, I couldn't even imagine doing the, helping Chris and Virginia and Jenny and Gail with this presentation this morning, because I don't want anybody to know my issues. Here I have this mask on the outside, portraying myself as this, highly successful professional father, husband, but on the inside, I was a crumbling mess. I don't want to share that. I don't want to expose that garbly goop in my life. But as it's been said, this allowed me a framework and a group that was a safe place, that as time went on, I realized I can share, my deepest, darkest secrets. I can share the difficulties that I'm having in my life, and I can take advantage of different structures in the ministry. Something we'll talk about in a short time is going a little bit deeper and doing what's called a step study, where you really examine aspects to your life and bring them forward in a communal way, with other, folks that are going through the STEP study. Jay, can you raise your hand? Jay was my leader of our STEP study. And I still call him the doctor or professor because he really helped me feel comfortable to go through that curriculum and workbook and study and draw out some of the difficulties and challenges that I was having, and understand that, again, I'm not alone in my struggles and my challenges. So
one thing I will also say is one of the most important person in CR to us is the newcomer. The newcomer is that person that's going to walk through the doors and come in, or online and come in, and we want to make them feel welcomed. We want them to make them feel part of this family, but as Troy said, at their own pace. We're not going to force anybody to sit down and spill their, talk about everything right away. It takes time. The other thing is, I remember when we first started the ministry, it was always about, I've worked in a same company for 36 years. I know I'm a unicorn anymore, but anyway, it's always been about the numbers, right? It's about the numbers. How many people can we get in here? Wait, our numbers. And that's not what CR is about. Yeah, we would love to have 100 people in our room, but really what makes a difference is that one person, even if it's just one person that has found a deeper relationship with God, has found healing in their relationships. That is what's so important. And that's, we often sit here and say, it is such a privilege to be in the leadership of Celebrate Recovery, to see God working in so many lives, and to see the relationships, restored, people breaking from some of their habits. It's those God winks, as we talked about earlier today, being part of that. It's just very humbling to see God work. One thing that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, oh, are you finished, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I wanted to share, because I'm an introvert, and when I first heard about this program, I thought, oh, I could never join a program like that where I share my deepest personal thoughts and hurts and hang-ups. So I came very reluctantly and kind of skeptical, to be honest with you. And then as I slowly, like you talked about, Chris, got more comfortable with the program, got to know the other members, the sharing became so cathartic. I just felt almost like a new person. I shared some of my deepest thoughts that I don't even share with my best friend. And now I can't imagine not having this group.
Right. And I think that leads into, oh, Gil, go ahead. Gil's going to talk.
I was just going to say, I had to add to this. There's so many beautiful things about CR, but I came to CR for an obvious reason, and that was my codependency. My son was an very active drug addiction was his issue. But doing this kind of thing in a group where you come for a reason, usually that you're in crisis when you come to CR. But sometimes you're not in crisis. Sometimes you're miserable and you can't even identify why you're miserable. I could identify, that I wanted to fix my drug addict son, which is laughable now because I have learned that I can't fix him. But being in a group and having other people bear their souls and their issues, just like Virginia just talked about, somehow reminds you, like you begin to hear there are other issues that you are dealing with, but because somebody in the group was brave enough to share that particular issue, you were able to identify and say, you know what, I have that issue too. So although I came because of my son initially, one of the biggest things was I was carrying a grudge against my father that I had carried for years. I mean, like years. And not immediately in CR, not immediately, but I was blessed to have God lift that grudge from me because of Celebrate Recovery, and found that other women also had issues with their fathers as well. So that helped me to identify something within me, because we don't do it in isolation. We recover with each other.
Can I say something? I also remember hearing somebody at CR talk about they had been in a different 12-step recovery program. I don't know if it was AA or something like that, but mentioning what really hit them about CR that was very important, that it's a Christ center. So it's not just a higher power, but we're identifying that higher power as Jesus Christ, and that made a difference for them. So I just wanted to add that little piece to it.
So just quick, what we aren't, we're not a quick fix. We're not a place that, we're going to give you advice. We're not going to try to fix you. It's not a place that we want anybody to be perfect. It's a place, it's not a place of secrets. It's a place of being honest and being true. And that's kind of, it's not a place you're going to come in and you're going to do it. You're going to do it for 2 weeks and you're going to feel better, right? It's, our relationship with God is a lifetime relationship. Like we used to always say, and we do, when you come for the first time, we do a newcomers 101, kind of an overview, a deep dive on what it is, what it isn't, and kind of what you'll experience. And we're going to go through kind of what CR looks like at Westminster. But what we'd always said is come 6 times. Please come 6 times. Because it's going to take at least 6 times for you to start to really understand and see how this program works. So that was something that we were very, very big on.
Yeah, thanks to Gail for chiming in there. That was beautiful, and Jenny as well. This Celebrate Recovery has helped me deepen my personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Seeing Jesus as not only my savior, but also as a mentor, because he was the perfect human being, showing me that, that despite his perfection, he also had certain vulnerabilities. He obviously had great struggles throughout his life and his ministry, and just that peace is having Christ as our divine healer and giving us hope. It's the very foundation of this ministry. And as Gail said, just her in her 2-minute little testimony there about, how she needed a program ministry like Celebrate Recovery. And as she peeled back the onion layers, she found out that there was more turmoil deep in her life than she had realized. So I think that's really important. And then the last thing we're just going to mention here, that the Celebrate Recovery ministry is not, I think a key word is, or key words, we're not here to rescue anybody. We don't have the power. We're not therapists. We're not, we're not doctors prescribing medication. We're a support. We have a tried and true framework that does work. It works to help people in their healing journeys. We're not a quick fix. And the last thing I just want to mention is there's no judgment. It's like that commercial for Planet Fitness, and this isn't an infomercial for Planet Fitness, but I think it's a great slogan that they have, the judgment-free zone. You come in with all of your issues and vulnerability, and nobody's going to judge you because again, we all struggle. We're all human. And there's no issue that can trump somebody else's issue. There's no unbelievable negative issue in our lives that can be so tainted and bad that that you're not redeemable through the power of Jesus Christ and the beautiful resurrection that we just celebrated a couple days ago.
So here's just some questions that we put in there. Are there things in your life that I do that hurt others? Is there something I wish I could live without? Is it time to admit I'm not in control of my life? That's a big one for me. Do I have a painful hang up or habit from which I need to be freed? Just some of those questions that we can ask ourselves.
And I kind of joke in a as relational manner as possible, but I would say that probably 8 out of 10 of every female sister that I come across in the Celebrate Recovery ministry struggles with control in some aspect. And I can take a look at my own marriage. My wife needs Celebrate Recovery because she loves to subconsciously control, be in control always. Yes, ma'am.
It's in our DNA.
Yeah,
I think so.
it is.
There's no
It is.
question.
It is.
There's no question.
It is.
But if it's having, see, a lot of times too, I think if we take a look at some of those questions, especially the second bullet, is there something, and I'm sorry, the first bullet, are there things in my life that I do to hurt others? We don't realize it. If we don't get the feedback sometimes that my wife's control makes me feel like that little 7-year-old little boy again, every time she tries to tell me what to do, and I go back to my 3rd grade teacher who was very punitive in my life, I'm not thinking about those things, but those things are so ingrained within me that they bring out triggers, or they bring out, I don't want to lash back at my wife in a negative way, but I become that 7-year-old boy having a little tantrum, so Celebrate Recovery helps to bring some of these things together and helps us to deal with how do we respond to others when there's a certain bit of hurtfulness coming. It also allows us to get out of our own denial that maybe some of these things, that I'm doing are causing issues in our family and friends' lives that are in a negative way.
Yeah.
So,
and to that, the denial part, like that's the big thing. I think with Celebrate Recovery, some of the tools is, yes, I can tend to want to control things, but admitting to myself, to God, and to someone I trust, some of my faults or my character defects. Now, when my husband admits that I have control issues, that's a different thing. But anyway, but that's part of the process, right? Before I was just kind of maneuvering around, but now I can catch myself, maybe being controlling. Maybe I can catch myself trying to fix everything. Maybe I can catch myself with wanting to have the table perfect and everything perfect when it doesn't really have to be perfect. So it's part of those processes.
I think it's important too, because it was mentioned earlier, and kind of reiterate what Jenny was talking about with Jesus being at the center, is so much of our ministry is about prayer. It was beautiful. Again, Ted's opening prayer for your group. So we always open in prayer. We always close in prayer. We use the Serenity Prayer, typically the long version of the Serenity Prayer. If you're not familiar, we'll have a copy at the end of the presentation. But we also, when we're in our small groups, in what we call our open shares, we always ask members when they're presenting, let us know what your prayer intentions are. And many of those instances are praying because of our character defects or our sin nature and our difficulties and how we're maybe having a negative impact on others, in our lives, and praying for our self-awareness, getting rid of our denial, our own recognition of how we might be hurting others, and now how we may be able to recognize and not have them be such negative issues in our lives towards other people. So the power of prayer is so incredible in this ministry.
And we also have worship songs. So we have about 2 worship songs that we sing along to with the words on the screen, and those are really special.
Yeah, and I was just going to say briefly that ultimately all of these hurts, hangups, habits that we talk about which each of you have a long list. I'm confident that you're saying things in your head right now and starting to say, oh, maybe that's me. But you know, as we remove those, the real winner is you and God. Because as you become as we all become the person that God intended us to be, and we remove those barriers, it so deepens our relationship with God. It is incredible.
Mhm.
You know, what's it say in the Bible? The truth will set you free. The truth will bring you closer to your Lord.
And as we talked about, you know, these are just some of the examples of some of the hurts, habits, and hangups that people come to, that they found freedom in Celebrate Recovery, whether it's codependency, anger, PTSD.
Yeah.
I can't say it today for something. Eating disorders, addiction, gambling, grief. You know, grief is a tough thing, right? And a lot of people need help working through that. Mental health, dysfunction, relationships. So basically any hurt, habit, or hang up, you know, is something that we encourage people to come to Celebrate Recovery to work on, to strengthen their relationship with God by letting God help fix. He's the only one who can fix us.
Yes.
We can't fix each other. So I think we talked a little bit about the history of Celebrate Recovery, and to add to what Jenny said just quickly, and then we'll get into what what it looks like, is that, you know, John Baker started this program because he went to AA, and the thing missing for him was that relationship with God. You know, his higher power is God. He wants that relationship to deepen, not, you know, a rock or a bird. So he wrote this 15 page, you know, letter to Rick Warren, who is the head pastor at Saddleback Church, and said, this is what I think this is what we need to do. And Rick said, good, you're now the ministry lead, make it happen. So that's kind of how it happened. And as you be careful what you ask for, right? And as we said earlier, Johnny Baker, who spoke, his father, John Baker, passed away 2 years ago. And so Johnny, you know, Celebrate Recovery, it's not just for adults. They also have, it's CR, oh my goodness. It's the landing, which is for like middle school age kids. And then they have celebration stations for younger kids from 5 and up. And the goal of that is kind of break those chains early, right? Break those chains early. I wish I knew that I didn't have a judging God, that God loves me no matter what, that I didn't have to be perfect to please him when I was younger. You know, and so it's just a great, powerful, it can be a whole family ministry. Now, we don't have the landing or celebration stations, but some of the other local ones do. As you know, we also talked about this program. Gary started this program. Gail was part of the startup as well 15 years ago. I came because my life had become unmanageable, trying to be perfect for everybody and everything. I wanted to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect employer, the perfect mother, you name it. And that's heavy. It's hard. You can't do it. It's not sustainable. So when I remember them talking about launching the program, I was sitting in the pew and I was like, oh my gosh, they were talking to me. Like, it was so personal. Like a lot of the sermons, I mean, a lot of our sermons that our wonderful pastoral staff does, it seems like they're talking specifically to us. And that's how I got started, and that's how we started. So basically, when you come to our CR, and if you went to any CR anywhere, the DNA is really important to Celebrate Recovery. We have to follow the DNA. It's part of making sure that if you walk into, you know, Gail's in Florida right now. If she wants to go to CR, she should go to a CR down in Florida and walk in and have kind of the same format happening. So that's the beauty of that. So our large group is what happens when you come, as we have an opening prayer. As Virginia said, we do 2 worship songs. The important thing about the worship songs is we're all coming and running in to CR. You know, did we finish a meeting or did we leave dishes on the table, whatnot? But the worship songs allow us to come in to kind of get our head right, get ready to listen to what God wants us to hear that night. And so that's a really important part. And you know, those songs mean so much. I mean, we all, you know, that's what's on my what is it, Sirius XM or whatever. I've got the message on all day. I drive a lot for work. I'll be driving for 2 hours after this, and I'll listen to the message the whole time. And it's just such a great thing. Then we do, and we'll show you, but we alternate between the 8 principles, which are based on the Sermon on the Mount, or we do the 12 steps with their biblical comparisons. Then we'll either do a lesson or we do a testimony. As I said earlier, testimonies are so powerful because it gives hope. It provides an example of how God has worked in normal people that have had life's ups and downs. And we can show how this program has helped us, get to a point where we are having healthier relationships, how to have healthy boundaries. That was a big thing for me as a people pleaser. I never wanted to have a boundary, and being able to have a healthy boundary can really help a relationship grow. And then we do a closing prayer. After that, our large groups are men and women together, and then we break out into open share groups. Open share groups are specific. Men have their own, women have their own. Our open shares are guided by these guidelines, keep our focus, our sharing focused on our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. We limit it to 3 to 5 minutes. Basically, we don't want to hear what, it's how you feel about a situation, how you are dealing with this. Focus on your hurts and habits. There's no crosstalk. I talked about crosstalk. That would be, even if we're in the group and Virginia shared something that really landed for me, it would be crosstalk if I said, I agree with what Virginia said. That doesn't happen because that's like 2 people engaging in conversation, excluding all of others. The group, it's not that way. How you might answer that is like, I as I'm sitting here, I hear things that land for me. Basically, you don't have just one-on-one conversations during open share. A key one, we're here to support one another. We will not attempt to fix one another. Again, the only person that can fix us is God. So we should, trust me, I've been trying to fix my kids, everything. So anyway, I've got to take my own lessons, right? Anonymity and confidentiality are basic requirements. What is shared in the group stays in the group. The only exception is if someone threatens to injure themselves or others. Obviously, offensive language has no place in a Christ-centered recovery group. I will also add that our leaders do go through training in terms of how to, run an open share, how to make sure that the guidelines are in place each time. It's really important. You don't want anybody to feel unsafe. You want to make sure, and I'll give you an example. So there was a member here that our children grew up together, and I was giving my testimony one night, and my husband wanted to come to support me. And I reached out to that member first to make sure she was okay with the fact that my husband was going to be there or wanted to come, because I didn't want, she didn't want anybody to know she was in CR. It's like if I see Virginia at church and I'm with somebody, Virginia is my friend from church. She's not my friend from CR. Now, I think all of us are walking billboards for CR, so it doesn't really bother me if, that's Chris from CR. But for some people, that can really be a break of confidentiality. So we take that really seriously.
I think it's important just to interject that you never, when you're in open share, that small group where you're sharing, nobody has to share. Yeah. Nobody has to. It's not a requirement.
Yeah, no, that's true. And, sometimes, if we had a lesson, we would, if I'm leading open share, I would say open share is open. You're free to talk about what's going on in your life, what the lesson was, what the testimony was. And sometimes we have like a question. Gail's great at writing some really great questions that we can share on. And, that helps us as well. So here is kind of like, some of the things that we talk about with our lessons. And we talked about, you've heard us in the theme of today, denial, powerless, hope, sanity, moral, sponsor. We talk about sponsors. We talk about accountability partners. As part of Celebrate Recovery, we do an inventory of ourselves. Ready, admit, the give, the yes, why we get stuck. So there's all these lessons, and that's what we'll do.
And as we mentioned, one of the beautiful elements of Celebrate Recovery is learning how the power of God and the Celebrate Recovery ministry has helped those of us, make meaningful transformations in our lives. And through the power of testimony, it's just they're just wonderful opportunities for us to kind of make connections and understand how the power of God and the Celebrate Recovery ministry has really helped us transform our lives.
And again, these are just kind of the examples of, the principles and the steps. And these basically, we call these, we recite one or the other every week. And I can't tell you, been doing this for 15 years. I don't know how many meetings that would equate to, but every time I read a step or a principle, God touches me in some way for something I need to work on or I need to focus on, gratitude or whatnot. We say that that's in our CR toolbox. CR gives us the tools that during the week or during those conversations that we can grasp onto to help us, approach things in more of a Christ-like manner. And then this is our serenity prayer. And I guess the one thing I'll notice is it just doesn't stop here where I think a lot of folks have heard, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In CR, it's expanded, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. We say that all the time. I have this on my computer that I look at every single day. It's a very powerful prayer. And I think that's what we wanted to leave you with, is this powerful prayer. Obviously, I don't know if there's additional things that you would like to share, but all I'll say is thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about Celebrate Recovery. I think you can see we're all pretty passionate about it. It's a great ministry. We're very fortunate that we've had such an amazing support from Westminster, and it goes back for the last 15 years. The beauty also is that, a lot of our folks aren't members of this church, but we've had some folks come in to join CR and then become members of the church because they start feeling comfortable. They feel that the healing. And a lot of times when you've gone through CR and we get you involved in leadership, that leadership and the desire to give back funnels into the church as well. So
The other piece is you're probably wondering how you access this group. And we have on the church website our information, and there's an email on that website. It's Westminster PC Westminster Pres CR at gmail.com. But it's on the website, and you can just send us an email, and then I'm usually the one that gets back to you, and we can talk about when you could attend a meeting, go through the Intro 101, which is just basically a 15-minute one-on-one, probably with me, where we go over what we talked about tonight, or this morning rather.
And in Virginia, for any of the men, Virginia would pass along the information to me, and I would connect with any of the men that are interested in the program.
So with that, if there's any questions.
I have a question, 2 questions.
Okay.
First, thank you for a great informative presentation. Very, very nice done. 2 questions. One, are there groups? You mentioned where they're different groups around the area. Are there groups within the Catholic Church in the US?
I do believe
Is it
so. I
English?
do believe that there's, you know,
It's called the Catholic in Recovery. It's not affiliated with Celebrate Recovery, but the framework is very similar. Yes.
Catholic and recovery.
Yeah.
Then, are there groups that tend, and forgive me for the improper language, but are there groups for, say, under 30s, that age group, as opposed, might have difficulty relating if it's a group of us
Yeah.
older generations?
So for the big CR, no, it's from like 18 to 99, 100 or 100 and, you know, I don't, yes, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm sorry. I will say that some of the bigger CRs, and sometimes we have had like where for open shares, we can break into, if we have enough participants, you know, more, you know, issue, you know, an open share for codependency, an open share for anger, an open share for different things. Like if you go to Willowdale Chapel, they have probably, I don't know, Gail, 10 different open share women's groups that have different specific issues. But, you know, our group, we have a lot of, you know, we've got some younger folks and we've got older folks, and it just kind of meshes, but no, we don't kind of categorize, if you will.
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things is sort of that multi-generational approach. So within our current men in our open share group, we have a gentleman, I believe, who's about 27, and we go all the way up to upper 70s at this point, and everything in between. And going back to what I had mentioned earlier about, it's not so much the age or where we are in our lives. We all share common themes and hurts, habits, and hangups in our lives. So I think it's really healthy for, you know, me in my 50s to hear from somebody in their 20s who's struggling with X, Y, and Z, and also somebody who's in their 70s struggling with X, Y, and Z, because it really helps me to understand where I am in my life and where maybe I was and where I'm heading. So I believe that there's a real positivity to having that kind of multi-generational age span.
Any other questions?
Thank you again.
Thank you.